Morning, everyone. Jim Holway, your candidate for Arizona Corporation Commission. This is our Wednesday town hall day. We're doing internet town halls live every hour at the top of the hour for 10 minutes, and we did one earlier at 10. This is our 11 o'clock one. Our subject for this one is to talk about making Arizona a solar leader. What does that mean, and how do we do it? If you'd like a bit more just general information about the Corporation Commission and my campaign, please check out the call we did at 10 o'clock. And when we come back in an hour, we're going to have Terry Goddard with us. And we will be talking about dark money, what its impact is, and how in Arizona we can solve the challenges this creates. So again, what we want to talk about for our next 10 minutes here is what we can do to make Arizona a solar leader, and what does that mean? It means a number of things. But first, let me say, clearly, we have enormous potential in Arizona to be producing solar power, and that is part of it. Today, we get about 2% of our power in Arizona from solar. 1% of our homes have rooftop solar. We get another 5% of our power approximately from hydropower, and most of the rest is coming from 35% coal, a little less than 30% nuclear, and 25% increasing natural gas. So primarily we are relying on nuclear and fossil fuels, and solar is just beginning to grow and expand in Arizona and provide more power. But when I talk about Arizona being a solar leader, I'm talking about much more than just producing solar power. I'm talking about us being a leader in the research, development, and innovation of the solar industry and building a strong economy based on that. This is where we have enormous potential. And Arizona was moving in this direction, but in part because of actions by your Corporation Commission, we've been going backwards. What are some of those? So recently we had discussions about net metering. And again, we have an earlier broadcast that you can look up that talks more about the details, or we can respond to some questions later. But the net metering issue in general is, if you put rooftop solar on, what's the arrangement of you sending power back to the utility when you have excess, and you drawing power from the utility when you need more? And so in Arizona, we had a fervent debate. Lots of advertising was put out by Arizona Public Service that was anti-solar. Lots of advertising was put out by the solar industry that was pro-solar, and very much politicized this issue. APS was asking for a fee of $50 to $100 on every solar customer, which clearly would have seriously damaged the economy for solar. In the end, the commission did establish a fee. It's $4 or $5, depending on the size of your system a month. But somewhat problematically, what the commission also said is that's what the fee is today. We can change it anytime we want. Anyone who's an investor knows what you want to have is uncertainty or the value of your investment, so you can determine whether it's a good investment or not. And the actions of the commission have created an uncertainty. The other action we've had going on is recently the Department of Revenue in Arizona has increased the property tax on solar. We had an exemption from property tax, and the determination has recently been made that exemption applies if you are a homeowner and you own your solar system. But if you lease it, it doesn't apply, and they are starting to impose taxes on those systems. And 60 to 70% of Arizona systems are leased, so many of them will pay these taxes. These are the kind of actions that have led to Arizona losing some of its leadership in solar. So if we looked a year ago, Arizona was leading the country in per capita installations of new solar. At the beginning of this year, we fell to 4th nationally, and in the last quarter, we fell to 7th, and we're continuing to fall because as we've changed the climate for the solar industry, we have industries leaving. So that's one issue. It's in general, what is the climate we create that welcomes the solar industry and says to them, Arizona is where we want you to come do business. So the second is much more directly being involved in research. There is much Arizona can do to further expand here. This is an area where our universities are taking leadership and will continue to. We also have First Solar, one of the largest solar companies in the world in Arizona, and we can do more to facilitate that research. So, for example, one of the trips I enjoyed very much early in the campaign was going down to Tucson and visiting the University of Arizona's Tech Park. It's a collaborative effort between Tucson Electric Power and the University of Arizona, and they're expanding with 7 different technologies in utility-scale solar. In fact, if you look at my campaign materials, you'll see me standing in front of one of the larger arrays they have down there at concentrate. This is the kind of work that we need to reward, we need to provide encouragement for it, and we need to do more of it. is how we can be at the forefront of research and development. And what this does for our state is it positions us to be at the forefront of what's going to be an emerging technology. And we can do more than just the solar. So one is, how do we make solar more efficient? Second, we can look at how do we take solar and wind and other intermittent renewable resources and integrate them into the portfolio with our traditional energy supplies. How do we improve the efficiency and the conservation both for energy and water? These are all areas where technology is very important and Arizona can be a leader. Then for production, granted the actual production of manufacturing is not an area where we're going to be a long-term leader. It's an area where in general labor rates in the US are competitive. This is an area where we could be developing partnerships with Mexico and be doing research and development here and production in Mexico and increase our trade across our border. Those are some of the things that we can do in Arizona to expand our leadership, to be more of a leader in solar. So I'm going to take a brief pause here and invite folks to send us in some questions. So this is a number that you can call directly in. Your other option is while you're watching this through the YouTube chat, through the YouTube direct feed, you can also go to the chat function and write us a question and we'll see it on the screen. And this is an example where we'll see those questions come in here. You can also continue to put questions in Facebook or tweet us, and we will bring those into the conversation. I have had some questions that have come in earlier. Let me look at my list, and I'll kind of bring in a few of these and bring them into our conversation. So one of the questions I often get as I travel around, and I got recently on Facebook, is, so what's this distinction between rooftop solar and solar that is owned or controlled by the utility companies or is a larger scale? So a distinction that's often made in the solar industry and renewable in general is between distributed. So for example, when you put a rooftop solar on your home or on your business, a small system, this is considered distributed. It's decentralized and scattered around, and it's very small scale. All the way at the other side of that, a great example is the new solar facility that is providing power to Arizona Public Service that was built by, it's the Solano plant, built by Abengoa, a Spanish firm that's outside Gila Bend. So if you leave Phoenix and you pass through Gila Bend on your way to Yuma, you'll see 3 square miles of mirrors. This is a facility that is basically using those mirrors to heat a fluid, and that fluid is then being used to create steam and produce power. But what's innovative about this facility is they create more heat in the middle of the day with the sun than they can directly turn into energy, and they're putting this heat in molten salt. That molten salt can then continue to create steam and produce power for another 6 hours after the sun goes down. But this is a plant that produces 250 megawatts. That's about the size of an average coal unit. So it's a very large utility scale. And we can do anything in between. So that's the basic distinction. My belief is in Arizona we should be pursuing both of these. Because of economy of scale reasons, the utility scale is less expensive. And what I've been told by experts, within a few years, 2 or 3 years, it actually will be competitive with other sources of power in Arizona and won't require subsidies to compete. The rooftop solar, because it's smaller scale, of course, is more expensive. But what it does is it allows us to produce power within our grid and directly serve it to neighbors without having to have large transmission capacity, lose power along the way. We also have the ability to further develop technology. So these individual solar productions with the inverters that put power out on the grid can actually be used to condition power and help keep the power grid stable and regulated for what we would call microgrids or areas. So I believe it's important we pursue both these kinds of technologies and their advantages to both. Part of the reason I believe we have a battle going on is if you're the utility industry, the more rooftop solar you have that's owned by somebody else, that becomes a reduction in the power you sell. I think that's one of the reasons we are seeing a battle going on between the utility industry and the solar industry. It's the job of the commission to be in there and make sure the best districts of Arizona are represented, and we're not overly siding with one side or the other, but that we're siding with the ratepayers of Arizona. Let's see, we had one comment from Christopher saying we need quantum.solar films purchased from Quantum Material Corporation, and some other topics related to that. I guess the general point I'd make here is we need to continue experimenting with multiple sources of solar power, with wind power, with other sources of energy. There are many technologies out there. It's not the job of the commission, it's not the job of government to be picking winners and losers, but what we can do is facilitate an active market in innovation, and the technologies which are superior will rise and we will be able to use them. Another question that I get quite a bit is recently you've probably seen proposals both from Arizona Public Service and from Tucson Electric Power to themselves directly enter into the rooftop solar business. So Arizona Public Service has recently come out with a proposal that instead of building a new utility scale facility, they would install solar on approximately 3,000 roofs within their service area. And the deal here is, as it's been proposed, is APS would continue to own the solar and you'd be paid a fee that's been estimated to be approximately $30 a month to lease your roof. I welcome this proposal. I also welcome the Tucson Electric Power one, in structured a bit differently. Smaller utility, so not hitting quite as many roofs, but still a few thousand, I believe. And in the Tucson proposal, again, Tucson Electric Power would own the solar on your roof. Instead of paying a lease, what they would do is guarantee you a fixed rate for power for the next 20 years. And I believe what's been talked about is a fee on the order of $99, but I believe it would bear some relation to what your current energy use has been. And then you'd be guaranteed that fee as long as your power use didn't grow 15% beyond what it had been at the time that the solar was installed. And I welcome that. What, in part, I welcome about both these is it represents two of our largest utilities in the state, recognizing that, in fact, distributed solar on rooftops within neighborhoods can be a valuable contribution to our grid. The other thing it does is it brings in these utilities into the midst of being partners in developing and experimenting on how do we best do this? How do we integrate this into the grid? How do we do it in a way that we do provide some of these power conditioning needs that can help bring more value to all of us? What we need to make sure of as these proposals move forward is that if we do them, we implement them in a way that they are expanding the market for solar. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to use ratepayer funds and guaranteed returns to have our utilities directly competing with private market solar entrepreneurs. But to the degree that they're providing these systems to households that couldn't otherwise afford to buy or lease a system, to the degree that we're using these as opportunities to experiment and develop technology, those are all very good things. And let's just make sure we implement it in a way that expands our market for solar rather than decreases it. Well, we're pretty much at the end of our quick 10 minutes, top of the hour from 11 o'clock. So let me make a few comments as we wrap up here. First, we'll be back at noon. Terry Goddard will be joining us, and we'll be talking about solutions to dark money issues. So I ask you to join us then. We will continue to do broadcasts with some other guests throughout the day. And if you want to learn more about my campaign, look at the 60-some videos we have up on the YouTube channel while you're here. You can go to my Facebook site, Holway for Arizona. We're carrying out an active dialogue on all these issues. I think you'll immediately see a campaign that's very different from others you've seen. We are engaging across the political spectrum, across the broad political spectrum of Arizonans, and we're having substantive conversations about the issues. You can also go to my website, hallway2014.com. So again, thank you very much for joining us. Come back and join us in an hour when we're sitting down with Terry Goddard, and please continue to feed questions to us that we can work into these conversations. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.